love is this, oh my soul, my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused the Lord of bliss to bear the dreadful curse for my soul, for my soul, to bear the dreadful curse for my soul.
Hello, welcome to the podcast, Old Testament Survey, in connection with the Boiling Point podcast. Tonight, we're going to look at the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes was written around 930 BC, somewhere in that vicinity. It was written by King Solomon. Now, it's my view, and I can't prove this, but I believe that he wrote it towards the end of his life. After he had, turned his back on the Lord for a while, I believe that he came back and wrote Ecclesiastes towards the end of his life. That's my theory. I can't prove that, admittedly. But the book of Ecclesiastes, it contains a description of a wise man's search for meaning in life. And it leads him to conclude that all human endeavors apart from God are meaningless. That life is a gift of God that should be enjoyed and lived in the fear of God. So fearing and loving God gives meaning to life. So that's basically the gist of the book. And the book of Ecclesiastes is poetic. Okay, so it's I would say this way, it's descriptive, not always prescriptive. In other words, just because he describes what he did doesn't necessarily mean that we should do exactly as he did. But he describes his search for meaning in life. It's a way of saying, hey, I tried everything there is to try. I've done everything there is to do. And apart from God, life doesn't have any meaning. But it is God and fearing him and living your life for him that really gives meaning to life. So in the book, he examines all kinds of things, and he calls himself the preacher or the teacher, and the key phrase, the key word and phrase in the book is vanity, vanity of vanities. The word vanity means futile, meaningless, empty, and also the idea that it's fleeting, it's temporary. And so he looks at life and says, man, life is temporary, it's fleeting, and apart from God, it's meaningless. And so he talks about how in life, the same things tend to happen over and over. The wind goes towards the south in chapter 1. Then it whirls about and continues again to its circuits, and the rivers run into the sea, and then they return, and all things are full of labor. You got to work for everything. There's a lot of hard work involved in life. And he says, the same sort of things seem to happen. There's a type of monotony that life seems to have. And he says it this way, there's no new thing under the sun. In other words, there could be new technologies and new ways of doing things, but human life, people tend to be the same, and the same sort of things occur over and over again. And so he begins to investigate different things. He looks into wisdom and learning and thinks, hey, maybe that'll give meaning to life. And he said, no, that was empty and meaningless and worthless. So then he tries in chapter 2, he tries mirth. In other words, having fun and laughter. And then he explores, drinking wine, but not, to where he totally loses his head and his wisdom. He describes it. And he tried building different things. He says, I sought in my heart to give myself to wine. I made great works. I builded houses, planted vineyards, made gardens, and with all kinds of fruit, and I had pools of water to irrigate them with. And I had servants and men servants and all the money in the world that you could ever imagine. But he said it was all empty and meaningless, like chasing the wind. And so he says there's nothing better for a man that he should eat and drink, that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw that it was from the hand of God. So he's saying, uh, the things you have and you work for and you can enjoy them, that's God's gift for you, the reward for your labor. There's an interesting passage in chapter 3. When I was growing up back in the 60s, there was a popular song, "To Everything Turn, Turn." A time to reap and a time to sow. To everything turn, turn, turn. Well, it came from Ecclesiastes. To everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Hey, there's a time to keep things, but there's a time to throw some stuff away too, right? A time to rend and a time to sow, time to keep silence and a time to speak. And so the point is, life is made of a bunch of different things, but God makes them all beautiful in his time. And he says also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. Now, there's another key phrase in the book of Ecclesiastes. It's the phrase under the sun. He says that a lot. What does that mean, under the sun? Well, on the earth. So he's viewing life from a human, earthly vantage point and looking at life that way, excluding God. Life is empty and meaningless and worthless. Then he talks about how he sees injustice, where sometimes things are not fair in life. And he says that's vanity as well. In chapter 5, he reminds us, hey, don't be rash with your mouth to be in a hurry to utter something before God, because he hears what you say. And if you make a vow, don't defer to pay it, for God has no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. And he says, better it is that thou shouldest not vow, that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Now, there are other, just interesting words of wisdom that you find in the book of Ecclesiastes. He says, a good name is better than precious ointment. A good name, in other words, a good reputation, that's better than precious ointment. And then we find there is a warning against immorality, sexual immorality, kind of like in the book of Proverbs. Ecclesiastes 7:26. I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Whoso pleaseth God shall escape her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. There's in chapter 8, verse 11, there's a verse that I think so applies to our day and age, where we see like prosecutors just letting crime go unpunished. And, you're going to get more of it if you don't punish it. And prosecutors just saying, well, we know they did something rotten, but we're not going to, do anything about it. He says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. So you don't carry out the sentence against an evil work, people are going to do even more evil. And so in chapter 9, verse 9, he says, hey, live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of the life of thy vanity which he hath given thee under the sun. So in other words, life is short. So enjoy what God gives you. If you're a man and you're married, enjoy your wife. He says in verse 10, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. You're going to do something, well, put some effort into it and try to excel and do a good job, right? For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. In other words, when you're dead, you can't do anything else here on earth. Your work is over. Your time is ended. There's a wisdom. He says in chapter 9 and verse 18, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. That's certainly true. Here's an interesting verse, chapter 10, verse 1. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor. In other words, you got a perfume maker, and he makes this ointment that smells really good, but some dead flies get in it. Well, it makes it to stink. And that's where we get the phrase, the fly in the ointment. You may have heard that phrase. Comes from this. He says, dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor. So does a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor. So what that means is that in the same way a few dead flies cause the ointment to stink, you may be a person that's looked up to and highly respected, and just a little bit of foolishness can ruin your name and your reputation and cause your name to stink, in a sense. It can ruin it. There's another interesting verse in Ecclesiastes 10, verse 10. If the iron be blunt, and he do not whet the edge, or he doesn't sharpen the edge, then must he put to more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. So the iron, it's talking about an iron axe head. And if it's blunt, it's not sharpened, and you don't sharpen it, well, it's going to take more strength to use it. So the thing is, go ahead and sharpen it. And the principle is try to work smarter, not necessarily harder. Then he says in Ecclesiastes 10:18, by much slothfulness the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. And so, there he commends diligence and taking care of what you have so that it does not fall apart. Now, when you get to chapter 12, he brings it to conclusion. And he says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. Remember your Creator, God. And remember means, with a view to honoring him. Be mindful of God, care about God, and seek to honor him while you're still young, before you get old. And then in symbolic, poetic language, he describes decline that occurs with age until eventually one day you die. So he says, hey, serve God while you're young. Give God the best years of your life before you get old and you can't walk and you can't talk and you can't do too much. Now, at the end of Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 13 and 14, he gives the conclusion. And this is what he says. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Do you hear that? Hey, don't live your life excluding God from it, or it'll be meaningless. You want meaning to life, you put God first and you fear God and you keep his commandments. To fear God means you have a deep reverence or respect for God that leads you to love him and want to please him and keep his commandments. He says, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So in other words, one day after you die, you're going to stand before God and your life is going to be judged. So you're going to want to live your life in such a way that when you one day stand before God at the judgment, you're going to want to hear him say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." So, get saved, repent of your sins and give your heart to Christ and be forgiven of your sins through faith in Jesus Christ, and then fear God and keep his commandments. And that's really what gives meaning to life. And so Solomon reaches that conclusion after doing about everything there was to do, trying everything there was to try, all sorts of activities and pleasures and so forth. But what it comes down to is, do you want your life to mean something and have contentment and real meaning? Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Don't forget to join us in the after show. And this is the basic thrust and the theme and meaning and summary of the book of Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon, King of Israel. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this? Here comes the Lord of bliss, to bear the dreadful curse for my soul, to bear the dreadful curse